Welcome to Global Risk Community Chat. Today, our guest is Mardi McBrien. I'm very happy to have you here today, Mardi. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm really looking forward to this.
Likewise. So let's then jump right into it. So before we start, can you briefly introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Mardi McBrien. I'm Director of Strategic Alliances at the International Financial Reporting Standards Centre. I'm responsible for helping to set up the International Sustainability Standards Board. And prior to that, for the last, 12 years, which led me to the International Sustainability Standards Board, I was the Managing Director of one of the leading global ESG standards in the market.
Sounds super cool. Then let's jump into our topic. What would you like to share with us today specifically?
I guess I'd like to talk a bit about the new ISSB standards, so the global baseline that's being put in place for sustainability standards and how that will help our risk management community globally.
Sounds good. Then let's get into it then. So what are some key things when it comes to these new standards and what has changed?
Sure. Well, I guess the most exciting thing about these key standards is that when we were set up, International Sustainability Standards Board was set up at COP26, it was set up to harmonize what was known as the alphabet soup of sustainability or ESG standards and frameworks in the market. So the new standards are a consolidation of 5 reporting frameworks and standards. So that's that of CDSB, where I used to be managing director, the IARC, SASB, the World Economic Forum's IBC's metrics, and the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosure recommendations. So instead of companies having to move between 5 frameworks and standards that were complementary, were confusing, there will now just be one set of standards for reporting to the investor community, enterprise value and for related information. And it will create a global baseline. So we'll have consistent, comparable, decision useful information for markets to act on, which hopefully will help shift that capital we need to meet our 2050 sustainable targets and get us to net zero.
Yeah, that actually sounds really interesting in the sense that, now people don't need to look this standard, that standard, or what to search for. They can just look at one particular consistent source, then I understand.
That's right. And it will also lower the cost for companies because they don't have to try and collect similar but different data to satisfy the requirements of the standards. It also means that companies are comparable year on year, but also across jurisdictions. So it'll help money flow across different regions across the world, create more liquidity, but also helping to get that capital into the most needed places to finance the transition to a just and low carbon future.
Sounds pretty good. Then hopefully we can get into a more sustainable future quickly with
that. Well, the cool bit is it for the first time, it really helps companies. We often hear a lot of talk up in front in the management commentary and strategy and risk sections of annual reports and accounts about we're starting to see more and more on sustainability, but we're not really starting to see the financial impacts of that in the numbers in the back. And these standards really help to communicate that in a way that's useful for investors, but other stakeholders as well.
Sounds good. And are there any maybe takeaway points for our viewers or, in general companies that they can, look into when it comes to these standards or in general sustainability that you can share?
I think the most important thing is that these standards that the ISSB are creating, will become mandatory globally over the next 5 to 10 years, if not quicker, in many of the leading G20 jurisdictions around the world. So my advice is to have a look at them, but they're there to support risk managers, right? These are standards and frameworks. These are there to help you communicate the information in a way that's, robust. It's got the right sort of rigor and controls around it. You can put your internal control systems in place around this kind of information. So these standards are really there to help risk managers, and they will play a really key role in mitigating the greenwash and the increasing legal action we're seeing against companies that aren't taking these sorts of steps and haven't got that consistent story in their reporting between saying they're going to net zero up the front or going to be low carbon, but actually there's costs associated with that, but there's nothing in the back, So they're a really important tool to help the risk management community to make sure they stay head of and abreast with regulation is going, but also where wider stakeholders and markets and shareholders are going as well.
Thank you for sharing that as well. Since you mentioned about, risk community or risk management community, I want to follow up with one question, and that is how it is for you to be part of risk community in general.
How is it for me to be part of the risk community in general?
Yeah.
I mean, I love it. I think these guys, I think the risk management community, the risk community generally, it is the integral cog in helping to move forward, the internalization and management of sustainability issues across businesses, because they their job is to put the controls in place and manage these systems, but also turn them into opportunities, right? Identify them and spin them out as opportunities, and that's really what will help get us to that sustainable future we want.
Yeah, thank you as well. Is there anything else you would like to add on or share with our audience?
Now, just go to the IFRS Foundation website and have a look and sign up for updates on the ISSB standards as they come out, just so you can stay up to date with the latest standards and latest news and latest developments. Like I said, it's a very fast-moving space, and this will be a real help, to you personally in your roles.
Thank you so much for sharing that as well. And with that being said, I do not have any other questions for today. So I want to thank you so much for joining us today and talking about, sustainability and moving forward, what people can, like look into or pay attention to as well. So thank you so much for joining.
Not at all. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Likewise. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too.